GROOTbrekfis met Ruben en Charonike.
So, really looking forward to this. South African entrepreneur, senior executive and private investor based in London. He currently serves as chairman and CEO of Invest Africa, chairman and partner of African Capital Investments, managing partner of Sapina UK, chairman of the VistaJet Advisory Board, Subican Aviation, and chairman of the Adorium Partners. Hersov's grandfather, Bob Hersov, founded Angloval. Jy het dit geweet?
Nee.
One of South African, the largest mining and industrial companies, which his father, Basil Hersov, ran from 1973 to 2001. Maar hier is die ding nie. He also received a degree from University of Cape Town and an MBA from Harvard Business School. But here's the thing, Rob is a very charismatic leader and not scared to shake any cages and call out what is true at an incredible cost. Death threats and losing million rands of revenue, and that's what he puts on the line for everything that he says. Rob, firstly, welcome to the show. Good morning.
Ruben, thank you. What an honor to be here. Really am. Thank you. Really
looking forward to. Before we start, I just want to check with you quickly. I do believe that you like playing paddle. Is there any truth in that?
Yeah, I was a co-founder of Africa Paddle. We've got 40 courts, 10 clubs rolling out across South Africa. And I've had failures in business, but this is a big success.
Yeah, let me tell you, that's something that I'm very much interested in. We actually had a chat about the Joburg, the Pretoria courts a little while back, and we're actually looking to get into that now. So it's an exciting game, and it just lifted the game a lot regarding tennis and the combination of the two. But Rob, let's get into it straight away. Why have you not packed up your stuff already and just left South Africa? Because, I mean, with a CV like yours, surely you can make an incredible living anywhere in the world.
I lived 31 years overseas. So I did, Ridge Michael House, UCT, 2 years in the army. And then in 1985, I left the country to go, but not because I wanted to leave the country, because I wanted to see the world and, get out there. And I spent 31 years in America, Europe, and the UK, and came back 7 years ago. And I don't want to leave. My wife's a New Zealander. My kids were born in England, all four of them. We've all come back, and it's the greatest country in the world. I don't want to leave. They don't want to leave. And we want to try and save the country.
I think that says a lot, someone from of your caliber, Rob, that would spend 3 decades overseas and then come back and try to make a difference here on home soil. So let's just dive in, and diving in the deep end, let's start with Eskom. Rob, why can they just not get their issues sorted?
Because the ANC is fundamentally, the ANC of the last 10 years is about breaking so they can steal. They've broken our democracy. They've broken most of our state-owned enterprises. They've broken as much as they can so that they can steal. And just a simple fact about Eskom. Remember Zuma got his boys, and Gupta's got all their boys in charge of Eskom. And then they broke the coal contract that was with Glencore, Optima Coal, and reinserted a coal contract with a different company. Why did they do that? Very simply because they produced low-yield coal into the turbines. It breaks the turbines. If you break the turbine, you create load shedding. If you create load shedding, you need to import diesel from overseas. Guess who has the import diesel contracts from overseas? ANC cronies, and they make a fortune. It's in their interest to break Eskom. And this is across the board. Transnet, Denel, South African Airways. South African Airways, I'll tell you how they steal. Just one example, okay? When that moronic Dudu Mayeni, a failed school teacher, was made chairman of SAA, the only reason she was put in there was to obey instructions from Zuma, the gangsters, and the Guptas. When they buy new aircraft, okay, they add a big commission on there that goes to Lutuli House. They steal the money. Sure. And you can't bribe the Americans, and the Americans won't give or take bribes. You can't bribe the Brits. They don't give or take bribes. But the French are still bribable. So they do, a couple of aircraft from Embraer in Brazil, a couple of aircraft to keep the Americans quiet. And when they do the Airbus orders, they do them through the French, so they can take or receive bribes.
Sure.
That's what's going on.
That's crazy.
Bankrupt. So Eskom is almost unfixable. And if you take all the problems of South Africa, put them in a pile over here, Denel, South African Airways, everything, and you put Eskom over here, this alone will bankrupt the country. Eskom alone.
It's absolutely crazy. And now the thing is, Rob, I mean, Andre de Ruyter has now resigned, and one can understand why. But what does that now predict for the future of South Africa and the power supply in South Africa?
I mean, we are stage 6, we're going to stage 8. This country is on the road to collapse. And there are 460 days till the election.
Yeah.
Why don't you guys set up a countdown to change clock of days till May the 1st, which is, I reckon, when the election is. May Day, all stupid leftists and communists and socialists love May the 1st, May Day. But it's a Wednesday public holiday, and that's when the election's going to be. Leftists love those sort of things. So we do a countdown to change. It's about 460 days of give or take. I haven't checked lately. We have only that period of time to survive before we kick the ANC out. But unfortunately, all the people who feel like they haven't stolen enough in the ANC realize they've got to quickly steal what's left. And that's what's happening. It's very bad. And Eskom, Andre de Ruyter was a very good executive, a great appointment. And, he brought down the debt, he improved operating efficiency, he did all the things a good businessman should do. But how does an Andre de Ruyter tackle the mafia that's backed by the ANC, that's installed with cadres? They're stealing cables, breaking turbines, importing diesel. That's how they make money. They don't invest, grow, build. They steal and break.
And now the thing is, Rob, I think, we can talk about Eskom for days on end. I mean, we spoke to Ted Blom a while back as well, just to give us an example of what exactly is happening, just to sketch it all. But now the problem is, I mean, if I listen to all the whistleblowers and everybody that knows what's going on there, the question is, what is the solution for power in South Africa? Because I don't think that this Eskom thing, let's say the right people that gets employed in the right positions, it's going to take ages to fix the mess that has been created up until now.
Problem.
It's very easy to fix. There is a ton of money and a ton of expertise ready to deliver power. The Western Cape could go off Eskom tomorrow morning and be energy independent. So could lots of municipalities, overnight. But it's the ANC sitting between the country and the solution. On January the 25th, coming up next week, the DA announced, let's do a march against Lutuli House.
Yeah.
I think it shouldn't be just a DA thing. I think complacent South Africans, of which there are too many, started business.
Yeah.
Which business people stand up and speak out? Very, very few. Scared, cowards, colluding, whatever. And then you go to the broader community, also complacent. My wife, who's a New Zealander, 4 months ago said, I don't know what's wrong with this country. You should be out on the street protesting against the ANC. And on January 25th, next week, everyone needs to get out. Up in Joburg against Lutuli House, in Cape Town against Parliament. And not against load shedding, not against the tariff raise, against the ANC. We've got to disconnect, as Alan Winde correctly says, the country from the ANC. So it's fixable. Power, we could easily fix it. I mean, somebody said to me 2 days ago, listen to this, I don't know if it's true. There's submarines sitting in Simonstown. Each has a 40 megawatt nuclear power plant within each submarine. I think one is 200 megawatts.
Wow.
Where are those submarines going? What are they useful for? Nothing. Leave them in the port, plug them into the Cape Town grid, and you've got Cape Town energy fixed forever, just sitting in the ports. I mean, that's just one crazy idea. But renewable, there are tons of my friends have got money and happy to get renewables rolled out even further. The Western Cape has good credit and can buy that power, as can other municipalities around South Africa, not many of them that have credit like DA-run municipalities. And we can solve this power problem quickly, but the ANC doesn't want to. They want to keep people poor, keep people out of jobs, keep people uneducated, so they can bribe them to vote for the ANC. It's the most evil, corrupt system imaginable. And South Africans are complacent. Everyone's sitting on their backsides. in their cars, listening to the radio, watching TV and doing nothing. We need to get out on the streets.
Absolutely. Ons gaan net hierna gaan ons verder met Rob gesels, bly net waar jy is. Ons gesels met nou baie bekende entrepreneur en besigheidsman in Suid-Afrika, Rob Hersov, en iemand wat nie bang is om hok te skud nie en nie bang is om te sê wat dit is en waar die probleme regtig gewortel lê nie, en te midde van baie risiko's wat hy neem, baie geld wat verlore gaan, en soos ek sê, glad nie bang is om ietsie to call it by name, soos hulle sal sê, wat no holds bar, nee, dis ons 'n mooi term daarvoor.
Yep.
So the thing is just getting back to Eskom, Rob, various lawyer firms putting up their hands now saying, okay, we're going to take the Ruyter and Gordon now we're going to sue them for the power crisis in South Africa. Do you think there would be much merit in that and possibly solutions coming up out of that?
I think it's a good thing to do. I think we should be throwing hand grenades, legal hand grenades all day long at the ANC. But I think Andre de Ruyter, okay, he was chief executive. I think he did a good job and he had his hands tied. There was nothing he could do. Pravin Gordon is worse than useless. He bankrupted every single state-owned enterprise so that they could steal money for Lutuli House. He should go to jail. He should be kicked out of government, out of South Africa, out of Africa, out of our lives. So, yes, the lawsuit's a good thing, but is it going to achieve anything? No, they're just laughing at us. We should be suing the ANC for crimes against humanity.
What's interesting about that is if you take a look at the people who are actually kind of standing as a united front for what feels to be the first time in a very long time with regards to specifically these lawsuits, because you have literally people out of all walks of life signing their name to these lawsuits. But speaking to that, it also speaks into what you said about kind of standing up and being united. Do you think that something like these lawsuits, above and beyond actually just taking legal action, is saying something about people standing together?
It's the beginning. If you think of a class action suit against Eskom, it should be a class action suit against the ANC. And what is a class action suit? It's the population saying we've had enough. So what I'd like to see in the next 360 days is Siya Kolisi, Bernard Philander, Jacques Callis, Jan Rupert, Adrian Gore, Mike Brown, Sim Shabalala, Patrice Motsepe, football stars, Anand Singh. All of these great people, Trevor Manuel can do it, standing together and saying, enough is enough, footsack ANC. And, we need prominent people. Sportsmen say, we can't do it because, we're representing the nation. Businessmen are cowards because they say we can't get politics and business to mix, which is nonsense. Everybody's got an excuse not to stand up. Stop making excuses. Stand up together, footsack ANC, vote for change. And that's the message. Those three words, vote for change. Yeah. So all the lazy 18 to 22-year-olds are too busy to register and vote, need to register and vote. Absolutely. And that's how we're going to get rid of these monsters of the ANC.
You've got a few solutions there, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later, especially when it comes to coalition forming and so on. But for now, you're very outspoken about the BEE policy in South Africa and the country, and I'm sure we can agree. There's a lot of competency in South Africa across all the races in South Africa. It's not really the policy that's the problem. I think the problem is we need to get competency regardless of race across all the different companies and enterprises in South Africa.
So Frans Cronje ran the Institute of Race Relations for 20 years or something, has now founded the Strategic Research Foundation. Well-backed, well-funded. He's producing the best research in South Africa. And I'd encourage you to get you can get them very easily. I'll send them to you. Various different deep dive research.
Yeah, please do.
And extraordinary stuff's come out of it. Let me give you the most important of all. The majority of South Africans, so over 50%, interviewed, researched, look back to the Rainbow Coalition of 94 to 2004, where we had economic growth, massive increase in employment, all the positives happening, and competent people in every position, regardless of race, regardless of whatever. And what happened was Zuma and Ramaphosa have destroyed that. They've destroyed it across the board. So people look back and say, well, maybe we could reignite the Rainbow Coalition, 94 to 2004, where competent people are in charge.
Correct.
And we need to take the country back, which means the ANC will lose in 2024. They will.
Rob, do you honestly believe that?
I honestly believe that. They're already below 50%. If we can get rid of Cyril Ramaphosa, who's lying and cheating and he's holding up the ANC by an additional 5%, have a look at Frans Cronje's reports. If we can get rid of him, and he is guilty, Pala, he is guilty, the ANC will collapse below 40%. Frans Cronje's research has shown that if there was an election today in just the urban areas, the ANC is at 30% or below. They've lost the urban areas. They're becoming a poor, rural, uneducated party.
So the elections is coming up, May 1st, 2024, but it seems so far away. I mean, like you said earlier, like it seems like they're just trying to get that last bit stolen before they actually leave, if it so happens. What do you hope happens at the elections on May 1st, 2024? And how do you think that if it should happen that the ANC would, like you said, Voetsak, and I quote you, how would that happen, Rob?
So let's give the ANC credit and give them 40% of the national vote. The EFF, let's give them 10%. I mean, their glass ceiling is 12%. They're playing it very cleverly right now, not creating trouble, not trying to run any municipalities, giving their council votes to the DA and the PA and people like that, letting someone else, looking like they're doing the right thing. They're playing it clever. But the people of South Africa are not stupid. They know the ANC are incompetent in destroying the country. The majority do. And they know the EFF will only do way worse and destroy everything. The EFF are racists. So let's give the benefit of the doubt of, let's say 40 plus 9, 49% ANC EFF. By the way, they can never do a deal together. Because if the EFF and ANC do a deal, the EFF will run the ANC. They'll run the ANC, and the ANC know it. So that's not going to happen. So let's say the Democratic Alliance, 25%. Action SA, 15%. Okay? That's 40%. And then you've got Inkatha, VF Plus, COPE, and the African Christian Democratic Party, plus Gayton McKenzie and the PA. And that's 55%. That is the coalition that wins the country. And the economy is going to boom because all the bad news is already priced into the rand. The rand will take off. Foreign investment will pour in to this country like a wall. And the country will take off. I mean, we've got 10 years of fixing things. We're like the Ukraine. They got invaded by Russia, all infrastructure destroyed. We got invaded by the ANC, all infrastructure destroyed. Sure. We're going to have to rebuild both countries.
Rob, we're just going to take a quick break and go to the news quickly, and then right afterwards I want to get back to the coalition forming, and how do you see that playing out? Dis pad vir jou net hier naby net vir ons. Still joined by Rob Hersov, well-known entrepreneur and businessman in South Africa, and fighting a very hard fight to bring about change in South Africa. And Rob, we really take our hats off to you because, I mean, it's at an incredible cost. We'll get to that later, a little bit later. So regarding coalition forming, I mean, you mentioned at some point there is like 10 points, let's say 10 points that all the different parties needs to agree on. And you said, in theory, if they can agree on 6 of those, they can work out the other 4. However, Rob, I think it could become really messy, but even in that, it could be better than we've got currently.
Look, it's easy to say it cannot get worse. And you know the expression, when you hit rock bottom? With the ANC, if we hit rock bottom, they're going to keep digging. And that's the problem. So there is worse than the ANC. It's the EFF. But, you know, it's the old story of the frog in the water. You know, they keep boiling the frog, okay? And the frog gets hotter and hotter and hotter and doesn't do anything. And eventually the frog bursts, dies. You know, that's South Africans. We just think, okay, we've survived this, we've survived that, we can put up with it. I think enough's enough. Really, enough's enough. People are going to get out on the streets, get angry, and protest and start to show the ANC, we won't take it anymore. Helen Zille was right when she said, we should not be paying our taxes.
Yeah, because the thing is, Rob, there's a big difference between tenacity through adversity and actually just lying down and accepting things that we don't have to.
So well put. Absolutely bang on. And South Africans say, well, we're resilient, we can put up with it, and we'll solve the problem. But we're not solving the problem. We're just destroying the country. We need to get together and chuck the ANC out.
I would like to get to your ideal cabinet. Just give us an idea. What would your ideal cabinet look like, Rob?
So the Minister of Police would be someone that has come out of the world of policing, like Ian Cameron.
Yes.
The Minister of Sport would be someone that comes out of the world of sport or sport business. And I think the majority of my cabinet would be people that have had business backgrounds and business experience, because there's no greater calling in life than being in business. If you make money, you've been successful. If you lose money, you go out of business. Politicians don't go out of business. They just jump to the next way to steal. So a lot of the cabinet would be experts in that field and business people. Becky Cele is useless as Minister of Police. He's stupid and useless, but he was Minister of Agriculture at some point. Do you know that? At the end of his first meeting as Minister of Agriculture, he listened for 3 hours, and then he said, I've learned a lot. I'm going to really make a difference as Minister of Agriculture. And you know what I'm going to do first? It upsets me that the Western Cape dominates wine production. I'm going to make sure there's wine production in the Transvaal, Free State, and Natal.
Wow.
Now, what a stupid human being to realize you actually can't create wine in those places. He's so stupid he doesn't realize that. And that's a minister. And he's Minister of Police now. His knowledge of policing is zero. Fakile too, useless. Our cabinet is a cabinet of clowns. All of them are stupid. All communists, which is even more stupid.
Yeah, I think because at the end of the day, I think the problem is at this stage, even if we look at a cabinet reshuffle, out of the last decade or two, we've been sitting with the fact that minister is the title that actually matters and not necessarily the field of expertise that comes after minister of. And then speaking to you, talking about politicians, and we know it's entrenched in a lot of different problems. But now we're in a conversation about having individual independent candidates that might be able to actually stand for election for leadership positions in South Africa. Do you think that would be where a sort of difference in our community can be established if we move away from party-entrenched individuals?
Very much so. Lucy Maimane and Michael Louis, who's done a lot of this work, have been pushing this hard through Parliament. But obviously ANC is resisting it because they want to deploy all their idiots in all these positions. So what happens is, there's resistance against it, but it is where we have to go. As Omri Magagole, who's an ANC member, an ANC veteran, and is one of the few brave people in the ANC standing up and calling out the ANC for corruption from within the ANC, he says we need to adopt Van Zyl Slabbert's original constitutional changes. And he's right. So we do need these independent candidates. If you come from Constantia, the person you elect needs to be someone who knows Constantia, who's from Constantia, and who says, this is what I'm going to stand for. And if they don't in Parliament, you kick them out. So I think we have to head in that direction.
Ons gaan dit hierna verder met Rob gesels. And Rob, I want to get to the ZONDO Commission because we spoke about the corruption a little bit earlier. I mean, there was a lot of hope placed in the ZONDO Commission. There has been some action taken. My question is, has it been enough up until thus far? And are we expecting to see some more? Have you got hope in the ZONDO Commission?
I think the ZONDO Commission was fundamental because it made a lot of people realize how deep the corruption had gone. You hear you get your information sources from a bit of an echo chamber. I do, you do, everyone does. I don't want to go and listen to leftist, radio stations, watch leftist nonsense. I don't do that. So I'm in an echo chamber. Everyone's in a bit of an echo chamber, okay? So the ZONDO Commission laid out in all its gory detail the deep, evil corruption of the ANC and how broad it is. How horrific it is. Now, I don't think much is going to actually happen. Cyril Ramaphosa was hoping the ZONDO Commission would do the work for him. I don't think much is going to happen because half the NEC and most of the cabinet ministers are implicated by the ZONDO Commission. They should have immediately resigned, read their names in there, they're guilty and resigned. They don't care. They're laughing at us. The ANC laugh at us. They're taking us for a ride, and we do nothing.
Rob, we have so much to talk about, and I really wish we could have you for like 3 more hours. But I've got to ask you, you're in a position, like we referred to your CV earlier as well, and businessman, and really I think what you are saying has been crucial to how people should think about our country, and especially leading up to our elections. But those young South Africans that have to make these choices leading up to their futures, trick results coming out this week, do they stay and study in SA? Do they pull a Hersov and do a couple of decades abroad and come back? What's the option?
They'd be crazy to stay.
Wow.
I mean, I had a chat to 2 young guys yesterday, white guy and a black guy, who interviewed me and did a little show and everything. They're young, very young. They're like 23, 24, trying to create a podcast show. And they want to stay. They go, Rob, we hear you. We know why you're saying it. All our buddies are leaving, but we want to stay and try and fix the country. And I think that's great, but the options are much reduced. There's massive unemployment, everything's been broken, businesses are going bust. If you've got a chance to go overseas and get trained, do it and come back when you're ready, because having those skills and influences and contacts overseas are priceless for South Africa. The ANC blame the people that have left and gone overseas and either emigrated or at least cut the link for bad-mouthing South Africa, because in a way you kind of leave and you've got to justify leaving this beautiful country, and so you say, well, it's over and that's why I left, uninvestable. But the reality is there's 1 million South Africans abroad, of whom I reckon half would come back in an instant if this thing turned around. And then we're going to have what's called a reverse diaspora of skills, contacts and ability and money.
And study what, Rob? What would your suggestion be for studying what?
Well, I just believe business is it. Just get into business. And business is very broad. Study anything. We need scientists, engineers, mathematicians, marketing people, business people. But I would try and do something that's technology or technology related. I mean, have you seen the development with OpenAI and ChatGPT?
Yeah.
It's going to change our lives.
Yeah.
So, guys, young people, get involved in tech or tech-enabled businesses.
Rob, can we expect to see you and enter politics?
No, absolutely not. No, so I'm 62. I like what I'm doing. I've got businesses. I've got interests. I go cold water swimming at 6 a.m. I'm the wrong guy in politics because I'm not prepared to compromise. I just would not be a good president sitting in parliament and sitting at board meetings, listening to people talk rubbish or state the obvious.
But don't you think that's what we need?
Yes, it is, but there are way more qualified people. I went out on a limb and said we should review onshore gas exploration and production in the Karoo. Okay? And I went out there and I made these bold statements. What I was trying to do was create a debate, have us re-look at fracking in the Karoo. There's a huge shale deposit. And then I got slammed by all the farmers there who are trying to protect their beautiful vistas and backyards. And, they pushed these lawyers up to say I was wrong, I didn't know what I was talking about. And in some cases, I did say things that were pretty outrageous, but I was just trying to spark a debate. And, I would get into, I'd blow myself up as president. I'd last 1 month and I'd upset too many people. Yes, it's what we need, but there are better people than me.
Let me tell you, just to sketch it for us, after your last talks that you had, you literally had death threats, if I'm not mistaken, and also ministers calling you directly, Rob. That's crazy.
It's crazy. So I don't want to be a politician, and I'm not trying to build a following. Okay, I'm not on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter.
I know, I tried to find you, I couldn't.
Exactly. So I'm not trying to build a following to create some sort of business. I'm not trying to be in politics. I believe my role is to tell it like it is, embarrass people into action, and that is a more important role for me and it's frustrating for the ANC. They can't deplatform me. I'm not on a platform, and they can't fire me. I'm unfireable. I'm in a much more important position where I am. And there's some great people that would make president, great people at cabinet ministers, great potential politicians, and not me.
Sure.
I think at the end of the day, Rob, we are very thankful for someone doing what you are doing. Whether you want to go into politics or not, there's a very important role for you to play, being as outspoken as you are and literally shaking the ivory towers and getting those calls, because that means people are listening. And I think the big thing is now listening and acting, two different things. And South Africans need to decide which one of those two they want to do.
So I'm very proud of things I've done in my life, and there are very few regrets. But what I'm most proud of is people walking up to me at Engen, at the airports, at Pick and Pays, and saying, "You're the guy. Thank you for what you do," and taking pictures, hugging me, shaking my hands.
Yeah.
And it's mostly people from the black professional middle class. It's obviously a lot of Indian South Africans and coloured South Africans and white South Africans, but it's majority are black, middle-class, professional, educated South Africans who want the best for this country. And that just makes me proud. Then I'm proud of what I'm doing.
Rob, we need to wrap, but before we go, we're probably going to get you back onto the show again, especially running up to the elections, to sketch us a little bit more about what's going on and what the possible solutions can be in the future. But my question for you now is, and being really honest, sitting in your chair right now, do you have any hope for South Africa now, there where you are now?
It's binary. It's 50-50. It's throw a coin in the air. If the ANC get voted out, will they actually leave? Is the corruption, the cadre is too deeply entrenched for us to fix it in time? Will we have economic collapse? Will we have civil unrest? All of this is 50% highly possible. But I'm not going to leave. I am investing, building a massive airport outside of Cape Town with my buddy Nick Ferguson. And if I'm a bitter ender, I'm not leaving. And I love this country and I will not give up. But I don't blame people for leaving.
Sure.
So it's binary. It's a coin flip.
Rob, thank you so much. We have to wrap it up there, but we'll get you back onto the show. Thank you so much for standing up, shaking the cages and calling it out as it is, whether people agree with you or not. The fact is that people need to get to the bottom of what's going on and start ruining it and taking it out. Weet ontwortel, wat is die mooi Engels vir dit to start.
And Rob knows what ontwortel means, because he's entrenching himself in the Afrikaans culture, playing word games, etc. So Rob, next time we'll do Afrikaans interview.
Ja, ek speel wortel elke dag.
Yeah, Rob even listens to Stukkie van 'n Merwe. My question is just, I don't want to even go there because this might ruin it for me, what rugby team he supports. But maybe we'll just get...
they're the lines, Rob.
Sharks.
I can deal with that. Rob, you can come back.
Rob, thank you so much for your time and have a good one. We'll chat to you soon again.
All the best. Cheers guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Rob.
Okay, so, dis Rob Hersov. En soos ek sê, iemand wat nie bang is om 'n ding te sê soos wat is nie, en baie insiggewend, en maak van dit wat jy wil.